Hello, welcome, Power Partners, to our informational playground. This is Starstyle, Be the Star You Are, coming to the airwaves under the auspices of Be the Star You Are charity. I am your host, Cynthia Brian, and I'm coming to you on the Voice America Network. This is the Empowerment Channel. We have a wonderful show for you today. Coming up in segment two, we have author James Twyman. He's the author of 24 books, including the New York Times bestseller, The Moses Code. But today we'll be talking about his newest book, which is I Don't Know, Maybe I Love You, and how to depolarize your family, business, country, and the world. It's a very apropos book and message and movement for the times that we are in. In my segment one, it is about gardening, reasons for steady and sturdy footwear for your garden, as well as tips for the month and what is blooming. The miracle moment for today brought to you by Be the Star You Are. Visit Be the Star You Are at bethestarur.org. Ralph Waldo Emerson. What lies behind us and what lies before us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. So think about that. It's all about what is within us. Well, as people already know, I grew up on a ranch and their cowboy boots were the essential gear. Now, we didn't wear them just for riding our horses or wrangling cattle. They were literally our everyday footwear for driving tractors, erecting fencing, walking through the fields, hiking in the hills, and just, everyday gardening as well as playing sports. It was cowboy boots. Now, rattlesnakes were a dangerous hazard, and as kids, we would encounter one or more a week. In the event we stepped on a rattler, we were told that our tall leather boots could be a life-saving protection. So when I moved away from the ranch to my little mini farm, I kept up that tradition. And cowboy boots were my go-to gardening gear, even though rattlesnake encounters dropped to about once or twice a year instead of once or twice a week. And while many gardeners opt for clogs or sneakers, I am a boot girl. But one particularly rainy winter ruined my beloved boots. And then for Christmas, my daughter and her husband surprised me with a cheerful pair of flower-themed rubber-soled boots. And the deep treads on those rubber boots, they gave me stability from slipping on the really slick slopes of my hilly landscape. And it also kept my feet warm and dry. So I wore them constantly, summer and winter until the soles split open and the sides wore out. And thankfully, when I sent a picture not so long ago, just about a month ago, to my son-in-law, within a day, he generously gifted me a new pair, which I am now wearing proudly, and they already look like they are very, very worn in. So I always say these boots are made for gardening. You probably remember the Nancy Sinatra song, "These boots are made for walking," and that's just what they'll do. Well, these boots are made for gardening. Now, after a midsummer lull, my garden is once again ablaze in artistic tones. So as I clomp around in my trusty boots, the show stealers are the daylilies, the gladiolus, the jacobinia, the feverview yarrow, and 4 o'clocks, as well as the continuous blooms of the clematis and roses. My hydrangeas are blooming, although they can't hold a candle to the spectacular specimens blooming in my friend Louise's garden. And if you want to see those pictures, go to cynthiabrian.com and check that out because I have the hydrangeas there. And while most people grow amaryllis indoors for a winter bloom, mine lives outdoors year round and it actually blooms in summer. So one of the joys of living where I am is that and this is zone 9B, is that it's warm, it has a mild climate, and it supports a wide variety of plants that grow outdoors year round, including the subtropical, the Mediterranean, and the tropical species, including favorites like hibiscus and bougainvillea. Now, one standout in my garden is the evergreen jacobinia. It's known as the flamingo plant or the Brazilian plume. Years ago, I just snipped a little stem from my grandmother's garden, And I plunked it in a pot and I watched it thrive. And since then, I've been propagating several more. I planted them in the ground, and it's really a stunning perennial. It can reach heights of 3 to 10 feet. If you put it in the ground, it'll get to 10 feet. I have one that is actually, going through parts of my magnolia and peach tree. And so it's really pretty because it blooms at different times. And it has these fragrant clusters of pink. Mine have pink flowers, but you can also get Jacobinia in red, yellow, orange, or white. Now, normally when flowers fade on a perennial, the advice is to snip them off and allow the plant to rebloom. However, what I've learned over the years with the Jacobinia is to let the plumes reset. In other words, don't deadhead the plant, just occasionally pinch to stimulate branching, because within about 2 weeks, after the pink petals drop, fresh flowers emerge on these green tufts. So you can just save the serious pruning for early spring as the new growth appears. And a bonus to growing it is that it's virtually pest and disease free. I like that a lot. And speaking of pests, oh my goodness, a wild flock of 32 turkeys, flocks of wild turkeys, toms, hens, jakes, jennies have adopted my garden as their personal playground and their favorite restaurant. They devoured my plums, they nibbled the tender shoots of my vegetables, they've uprooted flowers, they've scratched up beds. So I have resorted to using some netting and wire cages to protect my precious plants, and also pretending to be a turkey to get them out of my garden. Their droppings do fertilize the landscape, which is another reason that I wear boots instead of clogs when gardening. And one morning, though, there was a stealthy coyote that slinked up to the edge of the property. Looked more like a wolf, it was so big. And the turkeys took to the sky in a cacophony of fluttering wings. And I stomped my boots, I hollered, and the coyote charged away up the hill. Didn't have my camera with me. I would have liked to take a picture of that guy. Well, anyway, these boots are made not just for snake protection anymore, but they are still made for walking, working, and gardening. And I really, really like them. Now, when I was saying about talking turkey, tom turkeys fan their tails and they puff themselves up to mark their territory. And one trick I've done to get them to leave is to puff up my feathers by opening an umbrella and aiming it at the birds to mark my turf. I open and close it several times to let them know that this is my garden, guys. And if you have a issue with wild turkeys, I suggest you try the umbrella trick, because it does really work. Because when you open that umbrella and you open it and close it, it's kind of like a male tom showing that this is his property. So make sure you water wisely, mulch to keep the roots cooler, deadhead spent blooms, deep soak young trees, harvest your tomatoes, peppers, zucchini, cucumbers, and other vegetables to encourage ongoing production. Spray for spider mites and aphids and whiteflies with an insecticidal soap, and collect seeds from sunflowers, zinnias, calendulas, and beans to sow next season. And then I would say treat yourself to a comfortable, sturdy pair of gardening boots. Your feet and your garden will thank you. So I wish you happy gardening and happy growing. And when we come back from break, I will be introducing you to our author, James Twyman, the New York Times bestselling author of The Moses Code, with his new book, I Don't Know, Maybe I Love You. So stay tuned. This is Cynthia Brian on Starstyle. Be the star you are. We'll be right back. Well, thank you so much for staying with me here on Starstyle, Be the Star You Are. I am your host, Cynthia Brian. We're coming to you on the Voice America Network, and this is the Empowerment Channel. And I promised you empowerment, and I'm excited about our guest for today, James Twyman, the author of the new book, I Don't Know, Maybe I Love You. He is turning his focus on one of the most urgent challenges of our time, which is polarization. It's dividing families and businesses and nations. And just a little bit about him: for over 3 decades, he's been a global force for peace. You might even know him as the Peace Troubadour. He is a New York Times bestselling author. He's written 24 books, and he is also a Franciscan Episcopal priest. He founded the Namaste Village in Mexico. And what he's doing for the world is sharing a vision of unity and transformation. Thank you so much for coming on Star Style, James. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's my honor to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled. I forgot to mention that you're also a musician. You have 22 released recordings. You were a Billboard #1 bestseller. You're a filmmaker. You've made, I think, 7 feature films. I'm not sure what it is you don't do, but I am really thrilled that you're doing interviews. So
Sometimes when I hear the list, it's hard for me to believe.
I know, isn't it interesting when that happens, James? It's like, you kind of don't think that you're doing it, but you're living your mission, right? This is like a ministry, and you
Yeah.
are living what you were put on this earth to do, and empowering and inspiring others. Well, I want to get to your newest book. It's called I Don't Know, Maybe I Love You. It's how to depolarize your family, business, country, and the world. And your goal with it is to start a movement. And I think that we're in a time, I know that I personally have never felt like this before. And it seems that everyone I speak with feels the same way, and nobody really knows what to do. But tell us, yeah, kind of the inspiration behind this. I know you took a cross country trip, and I've read your book from cover to cover, by the way, so we'll get into all of that. But why did you think this book was so necessary right now?
I think every one of us does feel what you described as the urgency of this moment, that we are more polarized perhaps than we ever have been before. And it's attributed to what I call the pandemic of being right.
Hmm.
We all talk about the COVID pandemic, but I think this is even more divisive. The idea that I or you or any of us always think that we're right, and if someone agrees with me, then I'm going to welcome them. If they don't, well, then I might even force them out of my life. And we see this happening in families and close relationships every day. And I think this is the time that we have to address this real pandemic. Now, how this started with me was with my own brother. My brother Kenny is 11 years younger than me and loves to argue. So one day we were talking about something. It was during the COVID pandemic, and uh, I had a feeling he was winning. So I said 3 things that completely changed the conversation in our relationship. They were: number one, I said, Kenny, I don't know. Maybe I love you, man. And he actually got angry at me because he said, how can I keep the argument going
Right.
if you say that? And I realized he is right. You can't keep the argument going if someone does not resist you and try and push back on your need to be right. And
Right.
so I began talking about this in many of the lectures that I was giving, and almost every time it really seemed to stick. I would hear people days later in a conversation and they would say, oh, I don't know, maybe I love you. And I realized there's something here. So what happens then is I perform a one-man musical based on the life of St. Francis of Assisi.
Right.
And
Right.
I
That's
had
a
driven my
wonderful.
van. Yes, I had driven my van all the way from Portland, Oregon, all the way to the East Coast. And one night I'm in the town of North Conway, New Hampshire. I go out to dinner with a good friend named Walt and his wife. And I learned for the first time that his wife Ann owns a publishing company. And I said to her, after 23 books, I'm never going to write another book. But if I did, this is the one I would write. And I told her about the whole philosophy of, I don't know, maybe I love you. She said, if you write that book, I will publish it. So I started writing that night, and I was in my van and just started writing about the people that I would meet, the situations I would find myself as I traveled across the country, and it became this beautiful road trip, uh, talking to people about their feelings about polarization, and most importantly, creating a movement of depolarization so we can come back together.
Well, and you met the most interesting people. And one of the people I just wanted to highlight because I loved that chapter is when you met Stan the man.
Yeah.
And at first you thought, oh my gosh, he's this big, burly, he's going to beat me up. But, he was like this very gentle giant. And it seemed that his way of doing it was when people started to argue with him, he just didn't get involved in it. He didn't say anything. And
Hmm.
I thought, that was a smart thing too, because that's like under, in your heart, you can just say, I may not agree, but I love you. Because one of the things you write is you wrote, empathy doesn't require agreement, it requires understanding and patience. And
Hmm.
I thought that was really very insightful because you know, we do have this desire to be right, but we can't all be right and we can't all be wrong. And how great it is to say, I don't know, maybe.
I don't know. Those are three of the most powerful words we can ever express because the truth is, I don't,
We
and you
don't.
don't. None of us know anything for sure. Now, I wrote this book right before the
Election.
2024 presidential election, yes.
Right.
And so I was obviously engaged with a lot of people on that political level. And one particular man that I love to talk about is the man. I never found out his name, but he was someone there in that town of North Conway on my first day who was a very, very avid Donald Trump supporter to
Oh,
the
that's
point
a
that
great
he's,
story.
yeah, he's carrying a sign that says vote Trump or else. And I thought, well, this is someone who is exactly the opposite of me. Let's have a chat. And I began talking to him, but not in any way to convince him or to change him, just to listen to him.
Mm-hmm.
And miraculously, because I gave him that honor, he listened to me. And when our conversation was over, I don't know if either one of us changed, but we felt a humanity. So I don't know means that I don't know what the answer is. I have my opinion. I have what I believe, just as you have what you believe, but none of us know for sure. So maybe if I listen to you like I listened to that man, maybe if I listen, I'll learn something. All I know for sure is that at the center of it all, we have to have love and compassion for each
Mm-hmm.
other, no matter what. Because if I villainize you because you have a different opinion than me, there's no way we're going to come together. Nothing's going to change or grow. But if I can hold that space like Stan the Man did and how he would handle that with people who would disagree with him, then there can be a common humanity, a joining that happens. And, we don't want to think that these small events are meaningless. Margaret Mead once said, never think that a small group of dedicated people can't change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever
It
has.
can. That's right.
Yeah.
And I think I wanted to remind our listeners before we go on that I'm speaking with James Twyman. His new book is I Don't Know, Maybe I Love You: How to Depolarize Your Family, Business, Country, and World. But you were just talking about love. And I think one of the things, and you discuss this in your book, that has really gotten me is how the evangelicals on the far right proclaim to be Christian or devout Christians, but yet the teaching of Christianity and basically of all religions is to love thy neighbor as thyself, right?
Yes, it's
And
perplexing,
so
isn't it?
yes. And so there's the disconnect for me when I am talking. I always try to listen and never, and not impose my views. But the disconnect is we must love one another. And when I look around today and I see what's happening with immigration and people being grabbed off the streets that just in an inhumane manner, with the cruelty, I just feel so sad because that's
Hmm.
not loving our neighbor. That's not welcoming the stranger, which
No,
is
it's not.
what Assisi, preached, Luke, they all preached it. And
Yeah.
again, all religions basically are saying the same thing. So it doesn't really matter whether you believe or not, or what religion you might, belong to or feel more drawn to. The bottom line is that I love you. The last part is we have to love each other no matter what. So my question to you is, what are you finding now? You wrote this before the election and you were able to, talk to many different people with many different viewpoints and basically say, I don't know, maybe I love you. And what has been your experience now? And what about back in your ministry? How is it translated?
First of all, I'll say that you're absolutely correct in the strange behavior of people who claim to be followers of the one person who said to love one another. That's
Right.
all I ask. He said, my one commandment is that you love one another. And so to villainize people who don't agree with you is the most unchristian thing you can do. So it's perplexing to me how people can call themselves a Christian yet do the exact opposite of what Jesus
That's my
called us to
issue
do.
too, James. I really have a problem with that. And I'm trying to
Yeah.
overcome it and I'm trying to understand it. But I was just, yeah, I want you to explain a little bit more what you do besides just saying, I don't know, maybe I love you. Or is that the three things that you just keep doing?
Well, there are subgroups there. For example, and this would be the example I used of the man there holding the Trump sign would be a
Hmm.
good example. Curiosity is one of the great tools of depolarization. If I go in, let's say in that situation, I see someone who is supporting someone that I don't support for whatever reason. And I go in and immediately start telling that person why they're wrong, why they shouldn't support that person, why they should think like me. We're not going to get anywhere.
No,
All they're going to do
absolutely
is
not.
dig their heels into the ground, and we're just more polarized. But if I can become curious and say, for example, tell me more. Why do you support this person? What do you think is behind that? One example in the book that you read is that my dearest friend in the whole world, I discovered
Vicky,
along this route, my friend Vicky is an
right.
avid Trump supporter. I couldn't believe it because Vicky is the most loving, deeply spiritual person I know. And it was tempting to say, Vicky, you're kidding.
How
This
could you
is
do this?
terrible.
Yeah.
How
What
could you do
happened to
this?
you?
But instead of doing that, I was curious and I held my tongue and I said, tell me more.
Hmm.
Please share with me why. And she did. She shared some beautiful points that, once again, didn't change my opinion, but it saved our relationship. It helped
And
us to
that
grow
isn't that the
closer.
key? I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I think that's the key, especially when you're dealing with family, friends, business, colleagues, whatever, is it's the relationship. And if we can all
Hmm.
maintain relationships, we can heal the world one person at a time.
Yes.
So, and with that, tell me more. That is something those three words are words that I use all the time. Tell me more, because that
Hmm.
way it gives the person the opportunity to really express their views, and it makes them feel like they are seen and heard.
Yes. I had a friend in Oregon once who tried to start a movement that he called Take an Idiot to Lunch Day. I don't think it went very far just because of
Of
the
the
whole
name.
idea of the other person being an idiot. But the
Right.
whole idea was Find someone who has a completely different opinion than you. Take them out to lunch. Don't tell them anything about your opinion and just listen to them. And
Hmm.
maybe, just like with that man holding that Trump sign, they'll say, well, tell me more. Tell me what you believe. And maybe a real conversation and a real connection can occur. And I think this is what is lacking so much today. What happened to the days where we could disagree with one another and yet still maintain a relationship?
I agree.
Agree to
That's very,
disagree.
very true. I mean, we that used to be actually a fun thing to do is to have a debate, right?
Yeah.
And people would both come to the debate with their viewpoints, but you met somewhere in the middle or whatever. But today it just feels so negative. And so if you are talking and you're either out on the road or in Mexico at your ministry or just talking to regular people, what do you advise for people who are feeling so disillusioned and so polarized? Because after reading your book, I had an experience with someone who I love dear, I really love them dearly. I've known them for years and years, but they started talking about the craziest conspiracy theory. And my
Hmm.
first response was, that's a conspiracy theory, right? And they were adamant, absolutely not. All you got to do is look it up here, here, here. And so I
Hmm.
actually said, I don't know, maybe. Well, I love you no matter what. That's what I said.
Yes.
I love you no matter what. And at that, it just, it was fine. So just we're coming to the end of our time, and I want to give out your websites. But could you just wrap it up? What you would like, how you want this movement to move forward, and how people could really just depolarize as much as
Hmm.
possible.
The first thing I'll say is watch your own mind. Watch when you feel triggered and then you feel the energy to correct, to change, or to challenge someone else. Notice that and then take a deep breath. And
Mm.
remember that you have a choice. Find some way to be curious, find some way to ask questions. And what you're going to find if you do that is an opening occurs instead of a contraction. An opening is going to occur where you can actually be with this person and find things that you do agree with. That's not a bad idea, too. If you find that you disagree on, say, politics or religion or something like that, well, find something that you do agree on. Build from there. But the main thing is be curious. Realize that you don't necessarily know what needs to happen. For example, in the political climate, yeah, things are not going at all the direction I feel is appropriate or good for the United States or the world. However, I don't know if that's the very thing that is going to bring us back together. It might be. So the only thing I and you and we all can do is watch our mind, pay attention to our own reactions. Don't try and change anyone. Just change your own behavior and watch as everything begins to expand and grow and depolarize.
I love that because I do feel that the big C's curiosity can lead to change. And we all know that we cannot change anyone else. We can only change
That's right.
ourselves and the way we look at things. Well, the book is called I Don't Know, Maybe I Love You. The author is James F. Twyman. There's two websites I want to give out for you to visit. First is his website, jamesftwyman.com. James F like Frank, and then Twyman is spelled Twyman.com. The other one is to help you depolarize, and it is depolarize.com, but the D has a hyphen between the
Yeah, DE. Yeah,
DE
exactly.
hyphen polarize. Well, James, this has been great. And I know that the movement will take off because, when you're at the bottom, you can only look up. And
Yeah.
we're going to start looking up because we have to be
Amen.
positive. And again, we each have our part to play. And you just can never give up, never, never, never give up, as Churchill said. Instead, we need to be strong And we need to share the love. And if we can
That's
wrap
right.
our arms around other people, we can share the love. So thank you again, James Twyman. I don't know, maybe I love you. Thank you, James, for being on Star Style.
Thank
Be the
you. It's
star
been
you
my
are.
honor.
Yeah, it's so great. And for all you listeners out there, that is our show for today. I thank you so much for being part of Star Style, Be the Star You Are. Please check in every week. You can change your life. You can make your dreams come true. You need to be curious and share the love. For more information about Star Style Productions, visit cynthiabrian.com to get involved with Be the Star You Are charity that empowers women, families, and youth. Visit bethestaryouare.org. My aim is always to encourage, inspire, inform, amuse, and motivate. See beyond your physical being. Know you are already the star you dreamed of becoming. Cherish the past, dream of the future, and celebrate each moment of your life. And please read a book this week and choose I Don't Know, Maybe I Love You by James F. Twyman. Until we play again in the Star Style Playground and celebrate, remember, love always wins, kindness always prevails, and smiles will keep us happy. I'm Cynthia Brian for Star Style. I encourage you to be kind, be inclusive, tell the truth, live with integrity, embrace cultures, love unconditionally, and be your unapologetically authentic self because everyone counts. Until next week, be the star you are. Thank you so much for being here. You are important.